Hi guys, it's James
and Luke
from Wex Photo Video, and today we are in Croatia to test out Leica's brand new compact camera, the Leica Q3.
Now we're not just staying in Croatia, we're going to be spending 3 days in 3 different locations: Croatia, Slovenia and Venice, Italy.
To test out the photography specs
and the videography specs.
To really put this camera through its paces. So the Leica Q3 has a whopping 60 megapixel full frame sensor, coupled with obviously the new 28mm f1.7 Summilux lens. Now this is great for capturing stunningly sharp images, especially when you couple that with the 60 megapixels. But don't worry, it's also got a triple resolution sensor. So you can either shoot 18, 36 or up to 60 megapixels in either DNG RAW or JPEG. Now this camera has also got a digital focal length selector. Now what does that mean? Well, basically it allows you to crop in on your photos. Now don't think of it like physically cropping in, because this lens is so genuinely sharp you just can't compare it to other cameras and other lenses on the market. So obviously it offers a 28mm full frame, but if you'd like to have a little bit more of a reach, you can go up to 35mm, 50mm, 75mm or up to 90mm. But do bear in mind, it obviously from that 60 megapixels crops all the way down to 6 megapixels when you're shooting at 90mm. Now by this breathtaking, not 1, 2, but 3 waterfalls, I'm going to try the kind of higher frames per second this camera can offer. So it can offer up to 10 frames a second in mechanical shutter and up to 15 frames a second in electronic shutter. Now this is great for general purpose really. It's not majorly fast. I know cameras that can shoot up to like 40 frames a second now, especially when you think for its price point. But if you think for what it's been specifically designed for, street, landscape, because obviously it's got a fixed 28mm focal length, it's not going to be very good for sport anyway. So you won't need an incredibly fast frames a second. So 10, I think, is more than enough for waterfalls like this, landscapes, and also street photography to get the exact moment you want.
So interestingly, the Q3 actually has a dual-based autofocus system. It has a phase detect system and it has a contrast-based system. Why this is good is it's best of both worlds. So if you're shooting something with a lot of contrast in it, like this behind me, it's going to pick all that up incredibly well. And phase detect is good for tracking animals, tracking people. It can pick up eye, face, body, animal. So if you put it on a wide detection, it'll be able to pick up whatever in the frame, and ideally it'll pick out what you're looking to focus on. The autofocus is actually shaping up to be pretty good.
Now let's quickly move on to the overall build quality and the design of the Leica Q3. Now, we've both tried it, myself and Luke, and we think, to be honest with you, it's probably one of the best built camera I think I've ever used. That does come at a price. It is fairly heavy, coming in at 743 grams, but exquisite German craftsmanship, really.
It's very minimalist, so a lot of the things that you would expect from a camera, you're looking around and you're going, where is that? On the top here, you've got actually your shutter speed, and it has very limited options for you in terms of shutter speed, but that's kind of part of the Leica package. You know, they're giving you what they believe is good for you. So we have a touch screen on the back. I'm a little bit disappointed that it's not an articulating screen. It's one of these that sort of flips out and tilts, which, you know, is handy for when you're shooting waist height. But, you know, if you want to shoot yourself like we are right now, I can see myself in a little screen there because the Sony has that. But I mean, it's not the end of the world. but I was using it for the touchscreen for the automatic focus earlier, and that was really responsive and great. So
now, when it comes to the weather sealing of the Leica, it has an IP52 rating, which is kind of dusty and moisture resistant. So today we're filming near waterfalls. You're getting a little bit of kind of droplets here and there. That's going to be fine. If you're in maybe a little bit of a drizzle, or maybe let's say you're filming photographing in a desert, you're going to be fine again. But if it's very heavy rain or you jump in the waterfall, the camera isn't going to survive. So yeah, definitely that's something to bear in mind with the new Leica Q3.
One thing that Leica do offer with the Q3 is a 5.76 million dot electronic viewfinder, which is an incredibly high resolution for a viewfinder. Very impressive, and one of the greatest things about this camera.
Yeah, just simply using it for both video and photography. You're looking through it, you're getting a real crystal clear viewing. Right, so that's enough of the waterfalls today. Let's go and find our next location.
James. So it's day 2 and we are in Slovenia, and we are at the Škocjan Caves here, and we're going to be going inside of the cave to test out the low light capabilities of the Leica Q3. So in L-Log, which is its log profile, it can do between 100 and 100,000 ISO, but the base level is 400. That's your optimized ISO level. Pretty good scale there. So hopefully the footage won't be too grainy, the photos will look good, and we're going to get a good sense of what this can do. So we just came out of the Škocjan Caves, and honestly, probably one of the most memorable experiences of my life. It is absolutely epic in there. It's something out of Lord of the Rings, but even better. And in terms of the performance of the camera with the ISO, James was shooting between a range of 800 to 50,000. And I think when you're in that, the upper 50,000 range, it's a little bit too much. But we found that 12,800 and below, that's like the usable range. So you're not going to get too grainy footage. And the camera just performs really well in low light, considering also that you've got an aperture of 1.7 there. It's actually a fantastic low light performance camera. Another thing about low light shooting is autofocus. Invariably, cameras always struggle more when they've got less information to deal with, and we felt it did hunt a little bit more down there in the caves than it would, say, out here. But that's sort of to be expected. I still think the autofocus is pretty good. Let us know what you think of the images and a bit of footage that we got. So, next stop is Venice. Come with us.
Now, some camera brands make great lenses, and Leica is one of them. To be honest with me, I actually think they make some of the best lenses realistically on the market. And of the best, you've got the Summilux series. Now, Summilux is their kind of creme de la creme, the best of the best when it comes to Leica optics. And that's what we've got with the Leica Q3. So it offers a 28mm f1.7, which is great. It's an interesting focal length. It's quite wide for street, but you can definitely utilize it in some urban environments like Venice when it is quite crowded. But don't forget, you've also got that triple resolution mode, which will allow you to crop in on your photos if needed, getting up to a 90mm focal length. let's go and take a few photos with the Summilux lens. Now f1.7 is a great lens for low light. It's also a really good lens for creating a nice shallow depth of field, so you can really separate your foreground and background. Another thing I really like is you've actually got the aperture ring on the lens itself, so it has a more mechanical feel to it when using it. This is a great example of that digital focal length selector. Shooting across the canal, it is quite a distance away, and 28mm is just capturing too much of that image. So what you can do is crop into around, I think, 35mm, and that seems to work great for this composition. Now what it will allow you to do, it kind of creates this little UI, so this sort of square box to kind of highlight it. But when you take the photo, it will only save what's inside that square box. So you haven't got to crop in afterwards, it will directly crop in camera. And obviously with that Summilux lens, how truly sharp it is, you're just not losing necessarily any resolution. Sure, you're downsizing from 60 megapixels to around about 50 or so, but that's plenty of megapixels for an image just like this. So yeah, let's move on. Now we were talking about 60 megapixels at the start of the video. Now obviously this camera can shoot triple resolution, so at its very top end, at 28mm, you're shooting 60 megapixels, which is incredibly high. So to really show you how amazing this camera is and the lens, taking a photo of behind us, amazing amount of resolution. If I blow into 400%, you can see how truly sharp the sensor and lens is. And that's what's really important. You can have a 60 megapixel camera and put a rubbish lens in front of it, you're gonna end up with a rubbish photo. And that's what I really like about the Q3. It's not just the sensor and the camera, it's the lens combination as well that gets amazing results, especially if you're after high resolution photography. So we're just about to head to our next location, and we're just about to jump on a boat, which is going to be a great place to test the optical stabilization of the Leica Q3. I didn't really shoot many photos because it's difficult to test that at such high shutter speeds because of how bright the day is today. But for video, I think it was quite noticeable how smooth the footage was. So let's pass over to our filmmaker Luke to really see what the Q3 can do with video.
So the actual specs of the camera, you have up to 30 frames a second in 8K, up to 60 frames a second in 4K, and up to 120 frames a second in full HD 1080p, which is actually pretty versatile. I mean, you've got lots of different options there depending on the kind of resolution that you're after. I would recommend, 4K 50 most of the time. That's what I shoot all my B-roll in usually. And then if I'm doing pieces to camera like this, I'll go 25 in 4K. So I wouldn't actually always upload in 4K and render in 4K, but I'll certainly shoot in that so that it looks great. Now, I'm going to demonstrate each of those to you right now as we are at this beautiful cathedral, so you can have a look at each of those. And I'm going to tell you now a little bit about some of the other things that I think are lacking and are good about this camera with video. So you've got a variety of different codecs that you can use. We've mostly been shooting in MOV the past few days, but you can also shoot in MP4. You've also got H.265 and Apple ProRes. So lots of options there for you. So I'm just going to demonstrate to you the autofocus feature for videography. So right now I'm filming James, he's filming me, as you can see. He's in the shadows, so you know maybe the autofocus isn't going to perform that well. How is it doing? I'd say it's doing pretty well. We're at ISO 400, 50 frames a second, 4K. I'd say that's doing really well. And the aperture is on about maybe 3.2, something like 3.5. So yeah, let's lower the aperture and bring down the ND. I'm just going to demonstrate that to you now. And let's see how it does with 1.7 aperture. How's the autofocus doing? Yeah, it's still really good. Really, really good. Oh, struggling there as I'm coming out. Struggling there. Okay, so, you know, as I came back, not so good, but not bad. So the Q3 actually has an incredible amount of color science in there, packed in. So you've got 422 10 bits, which I'm used to using with the cameras I use regularly, and we use really great cameras at Wex. But what can you do with all of that color information that's packed in there? So with the L-Log, if you're not familiar with log profiles, what it basically is a very flat image with a hell of a lot of dynamic range. So your shadows and your highlights, you'll be able to bring up and down depending on what you need. So if I'm shooting that church there and there's a big sun in the background, I can bring up the shadows and I can see the church much more clearly, which you wouldn't be able to do if you use something that was like a baked-in look with the color information already there. You just can't, you don't have that versatility and the ability to change it very much. So that's actually a fantastic thing. And I'm going to demonstrate to you right now while shooting in this area some of the different versions of grades that you can achieve if you know a little bit about grading, or you want to buy a LUT package online, so that you can see how versatile the camera is for video. So that brings us to the end of this unbelievable trip. 3 big cities, 3 days, absolutely insane, loved it. So let's talk about the camera. Pros and cons, how's it performed, and what's the price? So the price is, drum roll please, £5,300. Now, it seems like a little bit much, but when you consider that this camera with the body is that much, and then if you were to buy the lens by itself, that lens is going to cost you about 5K. Yes. I've never heard of a deal like that, a package deal like that, so that's pretty good. And obviously, you know, it depends on who this is for. So, James, this is mainly, I would say, a photography camera. What do you think? Yeah, no, definitely. With how, yes, it's got great video specs, but all of the pros definitely seem to be more on the photography side of things. The triple resolution mode was really, really good. I think you could, how many megapixels is up to you. I think that's really nice. Not a lot of cameras do that, as well as the Summilux lens. I think that is a truly astonishing lens, and like we were saying, it's about £5,000 just for the lens itself. So yes, it does seem expensive, but if you compare it to other cameras, like just the overall craftsmanship and the design, the minimalist design of the camera is just so beautiful. If you've never used a Leica before, highly recommend coming to maybe one of our stores. We have a couple of demonstration units just to try out, because it's very difficult to put into words what it's like shooting on a Leica. It's not like shooting on a Sony or shooting on a Canon. It's such a different experience. It's more of it's all about the experience of a Leica instead of the actual quality of the images. So yeah, love this trip, been really good. Venice has been by far one of my favorite cities, I'm sure you'll agree. Absolutely. So yeah, highly recommend coming to Venice if you can, especially in this summer. I've been James. And I've been Luke for Wex Photo Video. And we'll catch you guys next time.